Lots of people think that the scene depicted in the background of the Guam Seal is Two Lovers Point. This column in the local newspaper is one example of that belief. But I started to doubt this a few years ago. For one, the cliff in the seal doesn't really look like Two Lovers Point. The cliff in the seal goes out a long way, and Two Lovers Point doesn't go out that long. The cliff in the seal also ends in a sloping way, sliding to the left as it goes down. But Two Lovers Point ends in a straighter way, more or less straight down. But what really hit me was that one day I was by the mouth of the river in Hagåtña, which many people think is the mouth of the river seen in the Guam Seal. As I stood there at the mouth of this river, I couldn't see Two Lovers Point. It was being blocked by Oka Point, where Guam Memorial Hospital is. What was visible from the mouth of the river was the whole northwestern coast of Guam, ending at Litekzan or Ritidian Point. Of course, the best person who can answer our question is the person who designed the Guam Seal. What was he or she thinking of when he or she designed the seal? There are two people credited with the design of the Guam Seal: Francisco Ceja and Helen Paul. There may even be a few other people involved in the design of the Guam Seal in some way. Who designed the seal is a question that I handle in another blog post. But for our question today, it doesn't matter who designed the Guam Seal, because neither Francisco Ceja nor Helen Paul tell us what scene they depicted in the Guam Seal. As far as we know, they did not leave us a description in writing, and no one I know claims that they were told by Francisco Ceja or Helen Paul what scene was depicted in the seal. What we do have is a 1917 description of the seal made by the Naval Government's monthly magazine, the Guam Newsletter. 1917 is the year that Governor Roy Smith approved the Guam Seal. So we can say that this description shows us what people thought the scene in the seal depicted. The description says that the scene in the seal shows Ritidian Point in the distance. Well, that should put an end to the discussion, but just for added knowledge, that river scene, which river is that? The 1917 description doesn't tell us which river it is, but over the years, tradition says that it is the Hagåtña River. So where was the Hagåtña River in 1917 when the seal was approved? And can you see Two Lovers Point from the mouth of the Hagåtña River in 1917? Well, the answer is yes and no. In 1917, and for all those years before the war, there were two mouths of the Hagåtña River, meaning the river emptied into the sea in two different places. One mouth was to the east, more or less where it ends today, east of the Paseo. The second mouth was to the west, emptying across where the corn building used to be. The Hagåtña River used to flow all the way there, but after the war, the Navy filled up the river, and now it empties only to the east of the Paseo. From that mouth of the river near the Paseo, you cannot see Two Lovers Point. Oka Point blocks it. But from the western mouth, closer to Aniguac, you can see Two Lovers Point, but you can also see the entire northwestern coast of Guam, ending at Litexan or Ritidian Point. The 1917 description of the seal says that that is what is depicted in the seal. Well, something like a seal is symbolic. After all, we don't have a photograph for a seal. It's an artist's creation. The artist can have one thing in mind, but the viewer has another. For those who want the scene to be Two Lovers Point, it will be Two Lovers Point for them. For all the reasons I have mentioned, I see it as the northwestern coast of Guam.